You're listening to the First Fight podcast, home of the people and stories behind the fight. I'm Jennifer Anderson, the host and creator. My goal is to give you a peek into the remarkable world of fighting and create a platform for fighters to tell their stories. In each episode of this series, a different fighter shares a transformative story of their first time. In this episode, I chat with Chris Liguori. Chris started fighting when he was just 16 years old and went on to have a long career in MMA, fighting for various promotions. We take a stroll down memory lane where he shares his first loss that made him want more, his longtime relationship with Frankie Edgar, and gives a window into the struggles of the life of an MMA fighter. Chris is a true martial artist who stays sharp despite retiring years ago. He is a great guy to have around at the gym, makes everything fun, and I really enjoyed this. I hope you do too.
My very first MMA fight. Okay, it was at Bama fight night, which was Dan Margliotta, the UFC refs. He had a tournament back then. It was an amateur tournament unless you kind of agreed on the rules in the back. Then it was kind of whatever you agreed on, you know. But my first MMA fight was an amateur fight, so it was open hand to the face, closed hand to the body, and no striking on the ground. And I think I had just turned 16, and I fought a guy who was much older. He was one of Henzo's guys, you know, a guy under Henzo. And I remember I got arm barred in probably about a minute and a half, and I didn't know how to get out of it. I just let my arm go, and it cracked pretty bad. And actually, my coach had to stop it in the back, from the corner because I wasn't letting go, you know. And yeah, and then I wanted to quit after that, and then obviously I didn't.
And how many years later you're still?
I know, I'm still freaking doing it. I remember after that fight, I went outside the school. It was in South Plainfield High School in Jersey, in like northern Jersey. And I went outside after my fight, and I was chain smoking Newports. So, so the future wasn't real bright back then, you know?
So, I mean, first of all, what made you do this fight? What got you into it?
So a good buddy of mine was doing jiu-jitsu. So I was like, you know, a troubled kid. I guess like a neighborhood tough guy type of guy. So I went to jiu-jitsu at a place, and it was just like gi jiu-jitsu, which I friggin' hated, you know? So I went for a couple weeks, and then one of the guys that was there ended up starting his own school, which was a little bit closer to my house. And it was an MMA school. So back then, this was 1999. So back then, you know, MMA meant you really didn't know how to do anything real good. If you said, I'm an MMA coach, that means you really didn't wrestle too well. You didn't box too good. You're like, I can kind of do it all. So when they went there, I liked that a little bit better, you know, more striking and just more stuff that I liked. But I still had no intention of being a fighter. And I was training for a couple of months, and then the fights came up, and he's like, hey, you want to try it? So I said, yeah, you know. I figured I'd get one, and if I win, then I'll just retire as a winner. But then I lost, so I had to get another one, you know. So
that's why you went on to the second fight, is you had to.
Yes. And my second fight was a kickboxing match, and it was a draw. So I still didn't get the win. You know what I mean? So then I had to fight again. I'm like, all right, one more time. I won 1-1, and I'm done. And then I won, and the feeling was freaking awesome. I'm like, this is what I want to do.
You know, nothing beats it.
Nothing beats it.
The highs and the lows. It's pretty low too.
I know, but that's why the highs are so great though, because when you lose, it's you know, it's near suicidal. No matter where it is, whether it was in a high school in front of 100 people, or whether it was in a packed stadium, like regardless, you know, you put yourself out there.
So you went on to, you know, fighting professionally, and I mean, you still train today. You're like an anomaly because it's like you're in the civilian world, but you still have your foot in, you know, the world of fighting. You and Frankie are like I don't want to say attached at the hip, but you guys are always rolling together and
We
training,
are,
still
yeah, for
training at
sure.
the highest levels. I mean, how did you and Frankie first meet?
I'd already been fighting a bunch. I think I fought about 10 times before I met Frankie. I had left the gym that I started with in the beginning because I wanted to be professional, and I saw that, these guys just didn't know. We didn't wrestle. Jiu-jitsu was very bare minimum. So I heard about a gym in Toms River that started up, Rhino Fight Team, and my family is all from Toms River. So I said, I'll go down there and try. And before I went there, one of my buddies who trained there a little bit told me about Frankie. And he's like, they got this kid, just came back from college. He's a great wrestler. Da-da-da. He runs a wrestling practice there. And that's all I needed was wrestling. So I'm like, I'm going to go there and try to find this kid. He can teach me how to wrestle. So then when I met Frankie, he really didn't know how to fight. I didn't know how to wrestle. So it worked out pretty well in that aspect, And then we just hit it off as people too from the beginning. Same kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, you guys have a
So
special
I kind of
relationship.
became Frankie's first coach until we met Mark, until we met all these guys,
What has it been like, being able to share this journey with someone that you're really close with?
It's awesome. Just seeing him from the beginning. Frankie was kind of the first guy that around our area that was really can call himself a professional fighter. He paid his bills with fighting. He made a life for himself. So, for me, coming from where I was, that wasn't even really a possibility. It was like you were going to fight. You were going to know how to fight the rest of your life, make a couple bucks, but you weren't going to be able to pay for your kids' college fund. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that back then. So for Frankie to do that and be able to do that and have the belief in himself, even at times when we felt like, oh man, this kid fucking screwed. You know what I mean? He's just a special dude. Just he did some special things.
Were there times where you had to pep him up to believe the dream?
Yeah. He's always got real blind belief in himself. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can remember when we fought BJ the first time. We didn't want to be like, we weren't going to be down on it. We weren't going to, we weren't acting as if like, oh man, we're kind of fucked here. But that's how the whole world felt, and that's how the whole world made us feel. Frankie was the guy that believed, like, why not me? Someone's got to beat him. Why not me?
Mm-hmm.
So through that, he kind of gave us all the freaking confidence. Like, yeah, absolutely. Why not us? And he's done that time and time again in his career. He's always taken the toughest fights, even from the beginning when I was kind of, in the beginning, kind of guiding him a little bit, showing him like, hey, bro, let's take some easy fights and get your feet wet. He never wanted to do that. He's like, I want to know if, he was always like, I want to know if I can fucking do it. So give me the best guy you can, always.
So when did you believe or realize that it could be a career for you?
Really when Frankie started freaking winning and seeing what it could have been. Because before that, I mean, I fought in UFC 45. I think I made like $2,000 to fight. I was fighting on shows in Atlantic City and stuff, making okay money, but it was never like, I still had to work. I still had to do all that type of stuff, which everybody had to, you know, like if you were fighting, you either had a school or you had a job on the side. It's just what it was. But seeing him and be like, bro, I'm freaking right next to this guy every day doing the same stuff he's doing. Why not, Well,
I mean, you guys at that time, the sport was so young and not that long ago, but like nothing was paved out. So it was a huge risk, I think, for you guys to kind of pave the way. Now, guys, there's like this recipe from you, Frankie, all the guys that have been in it for a while that it's kind of less of a risk because you could have a career in it,
Right. There's a potential and there's a possibility. And people know now that just getting in the UFC, and even if you don't have a long career there, if you can attach yourself to the UFC name, you could do something afterwards with it. Where I started, my first fight was in '99, where the UFC had like, I don't know, 8 or 10 shows a year. We would wait till Sunday afternoon to watch the Pride fights because that was like the biggest thing. You know what I mean? Like, there was never a real thought of finances in it,
Mm-hmm.
And then it became it became what it was. And you see people, I mean, you guys are a product of it, like it's, you can make a life through it now.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to get to that point where you can make a living, and not have to work. People think if you're like a professional, you're making, a living wage. You're not.
You're not.
Even
Or
in
if
the
they see your
UFC.
payout.
What was it like for you to kind of reach the pinnacle of the sport? And was that the big stage a lot different for you?
No, I'm not, I'm, I don't think I'm definitely not fulfilled with my career. What I was, able to do, I feel like I should have done more. I guess everybody's like that. I mean, Frankie's a freaking world champion. And he still feels like that,
Yeah.
But it's such a grind to, not only win fights, you got to back them all up. Every fight you're paying off the last fight's friggin' debt, like that's the whole gamble with fighting is to, in the beginning especially, is to win enough where you start getting ahead in the game. You're not just constantly breaking even.
Mm-hmm.
And then like with a family and all this type of stuff, it's like, it gets to the point where you're like, damn, bro, this is, that's why the guys who have a family and all this stuff riding on it, there's a whole nother level of pressure that people don't get, because you stop one day, you're a freaking grown man. I mean, I retired when I was 30 because I saw, I was fighting since I'm freaking 16, but you stop one day, you're a freaking grown man in your late 30s, early 40s, and all you did was learn how to freaking punch, kick, and take people down. That's scary, Like, what do you do with the rest of your life,
Well, you're like an artist, it's literally, it's scary to kind of base your survival of your family on that,
It is. It's tough.
And there's no consistency or like security. The fight could be pulled out from under you at any given time. So unless you're really good at managing your money and making enough money too, then it's a little safer. But you always got to have a exit plan too. But it's sad because so many people don't. They don't. It's hard to see past it because you have to be 100% committed when you're in it. So
100%. You're right. It's
an
all-encompassing thing.
You retired and walked away from it? Was you needed more security for your family?
Yeah, I did. And the very smart thing that my wife did was she never told me to retire, even though we were like, we had 2 kids. We were living in somebody's basement. I was going to work, whenever I didn't have a fight. When I had a fight, I wouldn't show up and stuff like that. So she never once told me, like, hey, I think it's time that you hang him up, just because she knew that I would always blame it on her. For the rest of our life, I would probably be like, you're the one that made me freaking stop. So she did that. That was very smart of her to do. But I just got to the point where I got sick of it, got sick of like being a little rich for a weekend or a week or two when you win, and then all this stuff starts piling back on top of you, and you're like, like I didn't handle that stress very well. Mm-hmm. Like I fought my best fights when I didn't have that outside stress. You know what I mean?
There's so much more beyond the physical aspect of fighting. I think that's a big one. The instability, and I think also the instability in the sense of like you never know when the fight's going to happen or not.
Right, you never know what kind of
freaking
judge, or like a judge steals your half your money from you because you don't know what he's watching.
Yeah.
Or there's so much of that people don't get. You think like, it was a bad decision or whatever. We move on, next fight. You just destroyed that guy's life. He's counting on that money. Like it's stuff like that. That's like, oof.
So do you think fighters should just get one check, or do you like the win bonus?
No, I think in the beginning, the idea of it that it was going to make guys really go for it, when it was a smaller crop of guys and guys knew that they had a job regardless, that might have been good. But now there's always someone nipping at your heels.
Yeah.
So, the promotion doesn't have to worry about these guys trying to just freaking pack it in to get a win, because you see guys getting cut off of wins now.
Yeah.
So really, just freaking pay these guys, let them have a little security, and they're going to fight their ass off anyway. They want to. This is their career. This
Yeah.
is what they want to do. You know.
Yeah. No,
I
I
think it's
agree.
fucking criminal.
I agree. Well, one last thing. What is fighting to you now? I know it probably evolves over time, but at this moment.
Well, I always say, like, I got into fighting because I was a fighter. I was a street fighter. I was a troubled kid. And then through the process here, I turned into a martial artist.
Hmm.
So for me, fighting is just it's a way of life. It's what I do when I'm happy. It's when I do when I'm sad or I'm freaking stressed out. It's my pastime with my friends. It's all this stuff. And, it's freaking good to know. Like, I always thought that when I was done competing that I would be done with martial arts. Like, hey, I grapple because I fight for money. And then when I don't fight for money anymore, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, why,
Hmm.
But I found myself when I retired that I still train, like, not as much, obviously, but I still train like as if I had
You
a
train
fucking
a
I
lot.
still had a fight. Yeah, I still grapple. I still spar here and there. I'm still on a regimen. It's just, it became who I was, So I could say now that I'm a martial artist for sure. I'm down with knife fighting. I could fight with sticks. I could do most things here.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, you are the definition of a martial artist because you have that passion for it. It's not like just training to fight. Like you're training
Right.
for life, and I love to see that you still are enjoying it and
When
around.
it's your job, like anything, right? When it's your job, I used to, in between fights, I used to like couldn't wait till I didn't have to freaking just kill myself anymore because I just killed myself and there was so much pressure and stress on it.
Yeah,
When I retired and now all that pressure and stress is off, it's back to being fun again. You know what I mean? It's back
yeah.
to like it always was,
I
Like
mean,
me and
you're
Frankie,
always seem
yeah,
like you're having fun and keeping it light, and I think that helps Frankie too, just having that lightness.
definitely, definitely. And like me and Frankie have that unique relationship where like we're gonna compete with each other for the rest of our lives. Don't matter if we're shooting a basketball, if we're fucking eating dinner, who eats first, who gets done first. That having somebody like that and just having that in you where you always have that competitive drive, that's huge, man. You see so many guys that lose that, especially after they're done competing, and it's like you lose a part of yourself.
Oh my God. Yeah, it like makes you feel alive. I was just telling Corey that like let's do like a bowl league or something. I want to like
Yeah.
compete in some way because I don't have that anymore, and it makes you feel alive. I think it's a big part of
It does.
your life. It's hard to let go of. So
And like regular life is boring. When you're a fighter, you always have, sometimes it sucks. You always have this little thing in the back of your head, especially you have a fight coming up in 2 months. You're kind of half in the situation, half out, thinking about your fight and all this other stuff. But when regular life comes up, it's like regular life is fucking boring, man. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like just getting up, going to work. I know what I'm getting paid. There's no, there's just no, there's no guesswork. You know what I mean? And when you live so long like that, you start missing that stuff. The stuff you used to friggin' hate at the time, but now you're like, damn, bro, I don't get nervous anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I feel
yeah.
like it's our instinct, to survive, and you get caught in this everyday monotony where you find things to stress about and worry about. And when you're doing something like jujitsu or any sort of combat sport, I think it reminds you, like, if you're used to fighting off a choke, waiting a line at the DMV doesn't really bother you as
Nothing.
much, because you
You're right.
literally know what it's like to try to survive. So
You're right. Something like jiu-jitsu, you're practicing killing each other all day. Yeah, it's the truth, though. It's the truth. And like, your body's just lighter after. Your energy's lighter. Everything's lighter after you struggle like that,
totally. Well, you're a good embodiment of that. I love to see that you still make time for it. A lot of people don't. But I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story. I've been wanting to hear it for a while, and
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks again to Chris Liguori for taking the time and doing this interview. I love hearing different people's stories, and he's one that I wanted for a while because he's such a good storyteller and has such a positive energy. So I hope you guys enjoyed it like I did. More interviews and first fight stories to come.